Scholar Zhuang Dalia Ziada. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Emily. Happy to be with you.
So tell us, what opinions on the ground in the Gulf and Saudi Arabia, are they likely to join attacks militarily?
So right until now, all Gulf countries that have been attacked by Iran are practicing very high self-discipline. They are very careful not to turn the battlefield of the conflict to the Gulf region, to the Gulf countries directly, despite being hit by Iran so badly. And unfortunately, Iran is still dealing with these Arab countries as if they are the backyard where they can just fire missiles, fire rockets, and expect no response. Today, we started to see, maybe for the first time, Saudi Arabia is saying that it can retaliate and it is willing to do so if these strikes continues. But actually, if you calculate it on paper, you will understand why Arab Gulf countries still cannot respond to Iran, mainly because Iran has more advantage when it comes to absorbing the aftershock of their retaliation compared to the inability of Arab Gulf states to absorb a potential retaliation from Iran if they strike Iran. In the Gulf countries, the targets are so precise, so easy to reach, but it's not the case when Gulf countries want to target certain targets inside Iran. They don't have the map of what they need to target. Even the US military bases in Gulf countries, they don't make the priority, the security of Gulf countries. Actually, the priority for them is US interests and the war. And the Gulf countries understand that. What surprises me yet, despite this fact, is that until now, Arab Gulf states, despite being hit by Iran, despite their national security being exposed to a great risk, they have not dismissed the Iranian diplomats still operating in their countries. So it's really a big question mark for me. And I think it is a very important step, a proactive step, let's say, diplomatic step for these Arab Gulf countries to do, just to give a strong message to Iran that this is not acceptable anymore.
Now, as far as, diplomacy, one, is there any way diplomacy could work? And two, what could this potentially mean for the future of the Abraham Accords?
Oh, actually, I'm very optimistic about the Abraham Accords because we are, or expanding the Abraham Accords, if we can say, because we are seeing now a reshaping of the region, realignment. That has been, by the way, it has been in the making for a while, at least since October 7. And now it's becoming more aggressive, let's say. And of course, the shape of the region after the dust settles, after this war ends, will be completely different than the Middle East we've always known. Hopefully, if the US and Israel will succeed in their mission to really finish or weaken the Iranian regime to the point that it cannot act as a threat anymore. So if this happens, of course, more and more Arab countries will want to be on the side of Israel, because in their perception, Israel now is the winning horse. And as I always like to say, Arabs like to bet on the winning horse.
Before he was the head of the National Security Council in Iran.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us more about who the Israelis killed. Let's start with the security chief, Larijani. We saw him in public just a few days ago.
Jake, Ali Larijani is one of 5 brothers who all have had major roles in the Islamic Republic going back decades. Before he was the head of the National Security Council in Iran, he was longtime Speaker of Parliament, served many terms in the Iranian parliament, was lead nuclear negotiator back in the early 2000s, and really has been involved at the highest levels of state policy, negotiations with the outside world, repression inside the country for decades. His older brother is the head of Iran's so-called Human Rights Council, who's Berkeley graduated, went to UC Berkeley in the 1970s. And another brother was the longtime head of Iran's judiciary. So this is really one of the most powerful families in the country. The Basij paramilitary group, they're sort of plainclothes vigilantes that have been activated every time that there's protests in the country. Some of them are members of the IRGC, but oftentimes they're just young men who've been armed by the state and are allowed to wield control in their neighborhoods, put down crowds, and act as repressors.
What about Soleimani, the head of the group that enforces Islamic morality? Tell us about him.
He hadn't been in that position very long because his predecessor was killed, and the one before that was as well. So there's not much to go by in terms of his biography. But if you assume that position, you would have been part of the security apparatus for quite a long time, whether in the intelligence ministry, in the Revolutionary Guards, or their intelligence organization, or the National Police.
When this war first started, February 28th, President Trump encouraged Iranians to take this to the streets once the bombing ended and told them to take over the government. Take a listen to what the president said earlier today, though.
They put out a notice 2 days ago. Anybody that protests will be immediately shot and killed. That's pretty tough stuff.
What's your reaction to the president's message to the Iranian people?
I think the problem, Jake, is that the message has been so mixed, going back to the massacre of Iranians back in January, when the president promised that he would have the backs of Iranian protesters.
Fucking removed. Number 10, Qasem Soleimani, commander of the IRGC Quds Force, who was terminated in a U.S. drone strike in Iraq. His removal was one of the most consequential events in modern U.S.-Iran tensions. Number 9, Reza Mozaffarinia, director tied to the Organization of Defensive Innovation and Research, associated with sensitive defense technology programs. Number 8, Mohsen Darabaghi, senior Iranian Air Force officer involved in logistics and readiness planning, reportedly dispatched in the opening wave of strikes on February 28, 2026. Number 7, Gholam Reza Rezaian, commander of Iran's National Police Intelligence Organization, reportedly ended during the same leadership targeting operation. Number 6, Mohammad Shirazi, head of the Supreme Leader's military office, removed during strikes on a gathering of senior Iranian leadership in Tehran. Number 5, Ali Shamkhani, senior national security official and longtime advisor to the Supreme Leader, confirmed terminated during the first wave of attacks. Number 4, Abdolrahim Musavi, one of Iran's top military commanders responsible for coordinating the armed forces, removed in the February 28th leadership strikes. Number 3, Aziz Nasserzadeh, Iran's defense minister at the time of the strikes, terminated alongside other senior leadership figures. Number 2, Mohammad Pakpour, commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps ground forces. His loss was described as a major blow to Iran's security command structure. Number 1, Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader for more than 3 decades. He was eliminated in a targeted airstrike on February 28th.
Downtown Tehran. And the dashcam captures Israel's latest traffic stopping strike. But Iran is hitting back at drivers across the world, continuing to push up global oil prices by locking down the Hormuz Strait. And the US president's plan to open it is faltering.
Some are very enthusiastic and some are less than enthusiastic, and I assume some will not do it.
Not a single nation has joined his naval coalition. Japan, China, South Korea, France, Spain, Italy, no. The UK too.
We have to make sure that we've got that credible plan in place.
Germany, blunt, this is not our war.
We want to know, do you have any minesweepers? Well, would rather not get involved, sir.
Australia not asked, not offering. As Iran continues to toy with the region. Here, Iraq's famous Al Rashid Hotel. Dubai forced to close its airport again. And in Israel, Iron Dome in overdrive over Tel Aviv. Local soldiers cheer as it's shot down. In the country's north, Israel continues its crushing assault on Lebanon. 7 News witness to the build-up.
A few misconceptions about Iran, Iranians, and the war on the Islamic regime. Misconception number 1. The Islamic Republic of Iran is just a government of the country like any other state. Reality: the Islamic Republic is a terrorist Islamist regime occupying Iran. It is not Iran, and it does not represent the Iranian people. 2. If you hate Trump or Israel, you should oppose a war on the Islamic regime. Reality: you can hate Trump and still support Iranians overthrowing a dictatorship. These are not mutually exclusive. This is not about Trump or Israel. It's about 47 years of Iranians fighting a brutal terrorist regime. 3. This war was launched to distract from the Epstein files. Reality: Iran's revolution, the killing of over 40,000 plus protesters, and the Epstein file news cycle simply happened at the same time. Iran's struggle has been unfolding for decades. World events don't revolve around American political scandals, unfortunately. 4. Look what happened to Iraq or Libya. The same would happen to Iran. Reality, Iran is not Iraq or Libya. Iran has a different history, state structure, educated population, and an organized opposition. Countries collapse from power vacuums, not from change itself. Iranians have spent decades building opposition networks. 5. Iran is a Muslim country, so this is religious. Reality, Iran is one of the most secularized societies in the Middle East today. The regime is Islamist. The society is not. 6. Iranians don't understand geopolitics. They don't realize foreign powers have interests. Reality, of course we understand. We've lived inside geopolitical conflict for decades. We know states act on interests. We simply prefer interests over terrorism. 7. Iranians want war. Reality, Iranians want the regime gone. War is the cost the regime forced upon the country. 8. This is a foreign attempt at regime change. Reality, Iranians have been trying to overthrow this regime for decades. The revolution started long before the world started paying attention. 9. Look at the rallies on Iranian state TV. People support the regime. Reality, those rallies are staged. Many people are coerced or pressured to attend. That's the propaganda you're choosing to believe. 10. Iranians are passive victims waiting to be saved. Reality, Iranians have been resisting continuously for decades. Luckily, the US and Israel realized we can't overthrow a terrorist regime barehandedly. 11. Sanctions caused this crisis. Reality, the regime weaponized Iran's economy long before sanctions existed. Iran's wealth has been spent on militias, proxy wars, and terrorism across the region. 12. War means mass migration of Iranians to Turkey and the EU. Reality, most Iranians have chosen to stay. Even the EU has been surprised by the lack of mass migration. Iranians are courageously waiting for the right moment to reclaim their country. 13. The Islamic regime reflects Iranian culture. Reality, the regime is a rupture in Iranian history, not its continuation. Iran existed for thousands of years, this regime for 47, and hopefully it's gone soon. There's no alternative leadership. Reality, opposition movements and leadership structures have been organizing for years. Alternative exists, plan exists.
با 3 تا موشک به خود اون مکان زد. یکم این که آقا هنرش این بود وقتی فرماندهان ما شهید شدن یک فردی به نام شهید محمد شیرازی اونجا به عنوان مسئول دفتر نظامی حضرت آقا بود.
Which is more attacks on both sides. The map changes every day, but it's a map that we can expect to continue in that vein for a while. More interesting at the moment is what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz, because this has now become a very hot issue and the politics of it are extremely delicate. Let's take the politics out of it for a moment and just think about the technical side. If any military was going to try to open the Strait of Hormuz, what would it need? Well, it would need 3 things. The first thing it would need is a series of air defense destroyers which could actually operate along the coastline, providing air defense against missiles or drones being fired from the Iranian side. The second thing it would need is a series of air attacks, probably, on targets inside Iran, any targets that could operate against something on the coast. So it would need a very active policy of hitting things every time they saw them appear near the coast. And then the third thing it would need, and this is the most difficult, of course, is a convoy system. So we've made some guesses here. Supposing a convoy of 6 ships was envisaged, and these would be tankers. These tankers are supposed to keep at least 8 to 12 ship lengths apart when they travel through this area. Supposing that was cut by 50%, supposing they said, OK, 4 lengths apart is good enough. Well, at 4 lengths apart, given the size of these tankers, we're still talking about a convoy that would be about 12 kilometres long. It would still be a very large convoy, even with a warship at either end. So a warship at either end would need to be supplemented by sort of sheepdogs that are able to move in and out of the convoy to protect them against drones, against robot boats, against people in rubber inflatables just trying their luck. This would be a very large area to try to preserve. Now, of course, this is not to scale, but 12 kilometres of target, travelling 600 miles right up to the Shatt el Arab waterway at the head of the Gulf is quite a long gauntlet to have to run. Are there any alternatives? Well, there is one clear alternative, which the Saudis thought about years ago when they faced this during the Iraq-Iran war in the 1980s. They built themselves a pipeline that goes from Abqaiq to Yanbu. And that pipeline is very efficient, but it won't take the amount of oil that still needs to be got out through the Gulf. And here is the problem. If they put tankers into the Red Sea, which they could, to load up at Yanbu, first of all, they've got to go out through this Bab el-Mandeb Strait at the foot of the Red Sea. And that area, of course, is threatened by the Houthis, who have said that we will attack shipping in that area. Now, they haven't done that yet, and we don't really know why they haven't done it, but that threat is still there. The other alternative is, of course, to go out through the Suez Canal. But the fact is